Now, let's talk about how it's reverberating back home. We would have had a very different 2001 if we had social media, my brothers and sisters. I really wonder what would have been happening on campuses and the streets if you guys could have seen what we were all seeing over there. I wonder. But I also wonder what would have happened to these kids on campus if they went bad on the American military after 9/11 and us losing all those people, all innocents. I wonder what backlash they would have gotten. So here we are with this state of play. 700 professors have stepped up to defend the Harvard President Claudine Gay, who is under fire for what many perceived as not denouncing genocide when grilled by Congress over anti-Semitism at Harvard. Here is some of the testimony that was relevant.
Can you not say here that it is against the code of conduct at Harvard?
We embrace a commitment to free expression, even of views that are objectionable, offensive, hateful. It's when that speech crosses into conduct that violates our policies against bullying, harassment,
Does that speech not cross that barrier? Does that speech not call for the genocide of Jews and the elimination of Israel?
When
you testify that you understand that is the definition of intifada. Is that speech according to the code of conduct or not?
We embrace a commitment to free expression and give a wide berth to free expression, even of views that are objectionable.
Okay, let's bring in Harvard history professor Alison Frank Johnson. She supports Harvard President Gay, has signed the letter with support of hundreds of her colleagues. First thing, Professor, I come in peace. I'm not here to attack you, and I appreciate you taking the opportunity, okay? I set the table the way I want, but you're a guest in this house, and I want people to hear your argument. The easy thing to analyze is, had the question been if kids on campus were saying similar things about blacks or transgender people, the idea is that Harvard would have acted a lot faster, as even in some of the code of conduct goes for using the right pronouns. That there is no line towards abuse. It's now you're saying something we don't want, but somehow the anti-Semitism doesn't seem to trigger it the same way. How do you see it?
Well, that's not what happened in this case, right? We're not talking about those kinds of incidents. And in fact, I'd actually like to remind you that the letter we wrote, rather than saying we stand resolutely behind the words that President Gay spoke at her congressional hearing, was a letter that said, we hope that the corporation will not be unduly influenced by those in the political world who are trying to put a finger on the scales when they make their decision about the president. So our letter was really about university autonomy. I think that even President Gay, in fact, I know that President Gay has apologized for her testimony before Congress. I don't think she stands behind that testimony. I don't think she thinks she did a great job. So it certainly wasn't our goal to have people look at the clip you just showed and think that we're all standing behind her saying, wow, that was amazing. We're so glad that those were the words you chose. That's not what the letter was about.
Here's the tricky part. I don't think a student would get the benefit of the analysis that you're offering right now. Hey, I didn't mean to say what I said. I know you asked me 6, 7 different times how I felt about black kids, and I know each time I refused to acknowledge what was obvious about my bias. But now that I see how bad it's going, I'm sorry I said it. I don't think the student would get the benefit that you're giving the president. Am I wrong?
Are you asking me how I treat students in my classroom? Because I have very clear rules about how we engage with one another in the classroom. And those rules involve treating everyone with the basic respect of assuming that they mean well. It's a learning environment. When people say something that other people take issue with, then our job is to say, here's why I take issue with what you just said, not attack the person, call them a racist, call them a sexist, call them an Islamophobe, or call them an anti-Semite. So in my classroom, where we talk about really difficult issues where students have a wide range of opinions, we have very clear methods for dealing with disagreement that don't involve attacking people's person or assuming the worst about their intent.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And Don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.